Welcome everybody, this is Danny with Why Is This True, and joining me today is Harald Kautz Vella from Germany. And most of you will have already heard about Harald and his work, which is quite amazing, quite extensive. I found a comment that somebody had left on a YouTube interview that he had done from last year, and it kind of echoed my sentiments very, very well when it comes to Harald and his work. I just wanted to read that real quick before we get started. I think this man is probably the most authentic person I've seen in the alternative research community. Even the interviewer keeps ignoring his wisdom, bringing the topics back to dualistic issue, because that is what people want to hear, and that is what gets views. The interviewer may not be aware that this is being done, but he certainly seems to be. Yet he stays calm in a situation that makes me sort of cringe, because he gets the bigger picture of why this is happening. And he is just there to get the truth out to whomever may listen. The first time I saw him was when he spoke so elegantly about chemtrails at the Basis lectures. It was the first time that everything from chemtrails to transhumanism to black magic or cult mentality all came together in a way that I had intuited previously, by feeling that everyone has some sort of mind control going on, and it happens at different levels to different people, even truthers or whistleblowers, and how they too become a corrupted part of the machine. He connects all this completely with such concise evidence of how they use various technologies to control and manipulate our DNA and our consciousness. That's my addition. It literally explains everything. And at the same time, he offers the best solution. Heal thyself. Any other solution is no solution at all. So it really echoed my feeling about you and your work. Mm-hmm. And I just wanted to read that to kind of give some perspective before we start. So thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Yes. So what are we talking about today? I'm open for anything.
What I would most like you to have the ability to do is just talk about whatever's on your mind, like what's been going on with you lately, what's kind of fresh in your thinking, and what has kind of captured your attention in, over the last week or two or month or whatever. What are the new developments in your life as it pertains to these types of subjects?
That's difficult. We've got three fractions of my life. One is fixing my old barn and my farmhouse that is always close to collapsing every second day. The second part is trying to keep up with what's happening on the planet at the moment, because it's very easy to lose the overview on the political fractions that are forming now. And for a while you had the cabal, the hierarchy of the satanistic cults, and it was easy to see who's ruling and to have an idea what's happening next. At the moment, it seems that the top of the pyramid of this hierarchy is missing. It's out, both on the spiritual part, that is kind of the demiurge, being most of the people call Satan. He's gone, he's been taken out, so that was the spiritual part, but also on the worldly part. It looks like that this entire block of dark forces is falling to bits and pieces, with parts that try to surrender and other parts who try to still kick off World War III. And it's very difficult to get a picture where actually the fire is burning hottest at the moment.
Okay.
That is one part. And the third one that might be the most interesting, although it's rather boring in a certain way, is I'm still working on the last bits and pieces of my own day consciousness to get cleared from rest ego fragments, and because this is what I experienced over the last mainly 4 years since I'm living and working with Maureen. that you can just look as deep as your own lake is clear. So it's not possible to really understand history if you are in the state that history produced, because then you can't look back and see clearly where we come from. So clearing myself for the last 4 years was actually the core strand of development. And I'm still working on the last bits and pieces, which is sometimes frustrating because I thought ego is something mind-based. Now I start to realize that ego is a two-component structure that is as based on the mental field, it's based on the emotional field, and they interlink and spare out the heart. So I quite early managed to refine and tame my mental part, because this is where I come from originally, from science. And then still there are some impulses within me where I just look at them and say, this is not the divine self. This is not the true self acting there. This is some kind of bullshit. I know I'm entity free, so it can't be an entity. There's nobody left to blame it on. So it must be something connected to me, and then trying to sort out all these little tiny components, and most of it seems to be like habits that are burned into the neuronal network of the body. Things you did wrong all your lifetime, and the reflexes still run, although you're not there anymore. So clearing out that part of the day consciousness is occupying not much time, but it's always sucking attention on myself. Like whatever I do, I have to observe every single step, every single word, what's happening. When you come into the impulse to start a fight with somebody, it's never him, it's always me. So sort out what went wrong, what part of the emotional body got triggered. So this is keeping me busy quite a few hours of the day to sort the last bits and pieces out, because I would love to say that I arrived at the end of the development, but I'm apparently not yet. So there's still some work to do.
So you do look at it as an arrival scenario rather than something that's just an ongoing process.
If I look at other people, I would tell them rather look at it as an ongoing process. For myself and the people in the closer circle, I would say no. It looks like we can see the light at the end of the tunnel. There is something to arrive at, which is actually the original human, with a connection to Gaia and a connection to the divine source, with no ego left, and basically a day consciousness that carries both the planet and source 24/7 within the human consciousness, just as an integrated part. This is where it goes to. But it just works if the ego is completely dissolved, and it is a bit tricky.
So what are the remaining parts, you think? Or what are the source of the remaining parts as far as barriers to that arrival state? The source is that we copy-paste concepts, especially emotional concepts. We learn from our parents, we learn from Hollywood, which is mainly worse than the parents. We learn in peer groups, so we just copy-paste patterns into our life. And this is not an action of the higher self or true self. When we're acting, following a pattern, this is just what it is. It's almost in the quality of a demon you follow. Because it's not real, it's not true. Past lives contribute to that as well?
Not so much. Past lives contribute to abilities and topics to solve.
Wow.
You make your journey to a certain point, and then you get killed or you die, and there are parts of the equations that are still open to be solved, and this is where you enter in your next life. And if you made your homework in the last one, then it's like you see these extremely quick developments. Like my youngest son, he was a brilliant painter in one of his former lifetimes, because he learned everything that a painter can learn in the first 15 years of his life to perfection. And then he turned to music. Very strange. So this is kind of the avatar concept. If you really mastered something in a lifetime, you just rush through it and regain all the abilities. What you take is unsolved, I don't know, would call it unsolved karma in a way.
Karma, yeah.
I remember quite a few of my former lifetimes. I remember a crusader that did basically everything wrong that you can do wrong in these dark times, like going in direction of Jerusalem, killing, raping, robbing, whatever. And then afterwards I was incarnated as a woman in, I think, southwest France, close to the Atlantic. And I had a peaceful family life until some stupid 5 men came in, killed my husband, killed most of my children, and raped and killed me. And I still remember the moment of death where I realized that actually this was a cheap bill I got. Knowing what I did in the life before, it was mercy that it only happened once and in a second to me. And the only thing that was not fine at that moment was that the youngest son survived this incident. And it just had to watch how his entire family was slaughtered. And at a certain point, this youngest son incarnated as a woman my age in my lifetime, and we came together. For half a year, we were a couple. And it was all about solving this issue. Like I had to tell her it was not your fault that you had to observe these things. It was my karma, I solved it, and there was no reason to pull you into this. And I apologize. This was exactly what needed to say, and the entire story unfolded within the first 3-4 weeks of our relationship. We could see all the pictures, all the little details. We would have been able to rebuild the house we lived in with all architectural details. It was really funny, very intense, this insight. So I think this sort of unsolved relationship issues reoccur.
Yeah.
And also, if you made a mistake in one of your former lifetimes that put an end to this, you can be pretty sure that you are directed to the same decisions to make again. Mm-hmm. And then either you learned something or you didn't.
Right.
This is also a mechanism I'm aware. And of course, what you also take is the state of consciousness. If you lose parts of your emotional body in a lifetime, probably you will be reincarnating into a history where the same emotions are blocked as well, to give you the opportunity to not only heal the day consciousness, but also heal your incarnating higher self.
Right.
If everything is happening in the divine order, which is sometimes that way, sometimes it's just manipulated, even on that level.
So we were talking before we started recording about your YouTube videos, the ones where you've talked about chemtrails and black magic and black goo and transhumanism. You're up to around 4 million views, and you were letting me know that a good portion of your audience now is in the United States, and that with the chemtrail debate, it's becoming less of a debate, and it seems to be more people aware of what chemtrails actually are.
I observe this in Germany on the street. Either you have people who just close their eyes because they had this emotional decision, don't want to deal with this, I don't want to deal with discussions with my neighbor, to be called a fringe person afterwards. So they don't discuss at all, because they know if they would lose. And most of the people I meet are aware of the problem, and most of them know it's not even climate change related. Most of them know it's military intelligence community and transhumanism. The only thing that's still kind of...
So they're aware of the interlocking technologies that you have explained, you think?
They are aware of the fact that something like this is going on. I mean, you can't ignore the disease spreading, like all these old age disease, autism spectrum. Something is massively wrong with humanity, and you can see it every day, because when you go to the streets, you see shitloads of cripples walking past you, and nobody can ignore the facts. So everybody knows something is wrong, but most of the people don't go all the way down the path to understand how exactly the mechanisms work to get out of the trap. Mm-hmm. Because this is apparently some effort and work, and especially it's like admitting to yourself that something might be wrong with yourself also.
Right.
Which is a hard... Most of the people, as long as things are ego-based, the ego is always happy with lies. If you think you're a smart guy, but you can't remember the sentence you've been told by your partner in the morning hours, I'm forgetting a bit, but I'm still a smart guy. If people would be honest and compare their mental abilities to what it was 10 years ago or 15 years ago, if they're really honest, how long could you sit concentrated on an issue at the working desk? Mm-hmm. How many phone numbers did you know by heart? Try to remember one today. It doesn't work anymore. So we are all dumbed down to quite stupid individuals, including myself. I had triple capacities when I was younger. The only thing that kind of is, this is what I feel that rescues me in my situation, is that I went down that path of developing the heart consciousness. And acting, speaking, feeling, thinking through heart consciousness, which makes the brain pretty useless. It's good to get your spaghetti onto the fork, This is what I need my brain for. And the rest is coming directly through the higher consciousness, or is well connected to the higher consciousness. Not completely, still some things are missing, but I wouldn't collapse if you would take away my brain.
Right.
So, but most of the people are not in this condition. Most of the people are completely identified with what they think, and they don't have a healthy access to the spirit part of the being. It's mainly cut off, and then old age disease like Alzheimer's really get nasty, because it's just the empty shell that degrades. So
Harald, why do you characterize autism as an old age disease?
No, it's not old age. It's childhood disease for most of the kids.
Right.
But it's basically it's coming from the same poisons. If you're already 50 and your organism is completely finished, and then you experience something that is dissolving your nervous system, it's a completely other story. As if you're like 2 or 3 years old, get vaccinations, shitloads of them, and then your nervous system dissembles in the upbuilding growing phase, and then the body reacts in a completely different way. So it's actually children get autism spectrum, young adults get Morgellons and old people get Alzheimer's, Parkinson, ALS, whatever one of these. So it's age, but it's all transhumanism based, all transhumanism related to organophosphates, fluorine, piezo crystals, exposure to microwave radiation, mercury. These are the main components. So this is one milk, one soup we swim in. And everybody reacts according to his diet and according to his age, in a way.
Mm-hmm. Do you now? One of my introductions to you from quite a while ago is a book where you actually wrote the second half of this book. It's called Imagination Chronicles 1: Dangerous Imagination, Silent Assimilation, and it was written by you and Cara St. Louis. And I had the pleasure of doing an interview with her some time ago. And do you still feel that your work in that book is there a lot to update in that work, or do you still feel that that's pretty applicable, like a useful thing to read in terms of people just figuring out how all these interlocking technologies are working against humanity right now?
For the general public, I think it's a bit too scientific. If somebody really wants to make research, if somebody needs the basic knowledge to prove things, to pull things to the courts, to find countermeasures in medicine, it's excellent. It was funny. At a certain point, I got to know a guy from the Netherlands who is doing muscle testing for 30-something years. He's perfect in this. And he also one day found the British lectures with Miles Johnson.
Right.
And for the first 10 minutes, he just said, this guy is nuts, because most of the things I was talking about, he never heard about.
Right.
Then he started just synchronously to muscle test my statements. And he found out that I was like 97% accurate with what I said. And then he said, wow, if this is all true, I have to completely rebuild my view of the world. And I really would love to support this guy to get 100%. And this is what we do. Since then, we are kind of quite frequently check the news findings, and if he finds something that doesn't test 100%, we go into details.
Right.
He helped a lot, especially finding the scientific skills to write articles that could be out of a peer-reviewed magazine.
Okay.
Like I don't get peer-reviewed publications because of these magazines are all from the other side.
Yep.
But at least I had the wish to write in this quality, and he gave me a quick introduction into scientific language.
Okay, that's good to hear. I have an engineering background. I don't have a science background, but when I read that part of the book, it was the first time that those interlocking technologies and how they work actually was very clear to me. It was a very clear, concise, and kind of definitive explanation, so that I could read it, put it down, and walk away from it knowing how those things work together, and why it made sense and why it held water. And I come across stuff that's kind of in the same genre, but I still haven't found one yet that kind of rises to that same level. So that's why I asked, because this book is now. This part of the book is now available for people to read on the internet, and we'll put the link on there so they can read it. My impression, Harald, was that I don't consider myself, I have a degree in engineering, but that doesn't really make me a scientist at all. And I felt it was quite understandable for a layman, from a layman's perspective. I didn't find it to be, it was intelligently written, but I don't think it was like it was too daunting for someone with just with a good public school background. They could digest that, and it would be helpful to them. I think that was my opinion.
Yeah, I had people editing it with no scientific background at all.
Okay, maybe
And
that
it took
helped.
me a year. With the first draft, I was actually finished after 11 or 13 pages. And then I gave it to the lady that helped me with the editing, and she started to ask questions. I don't understand this, because she was a complete layman on the science level, coming from the media part. So I started to give the answers to her questions, and then things started growing. And what we realized on the way was that you need at least the basic understanding of so many different fields of science. You can't do it without scalar physics. You can't do it without biophoton research. You can't do it without biochemistry, biology. You can't do it without medicine. You can't do it with so many fields that it was just necessary to implement short introductions to these fields of science to be able to deal with the scientific terms. Because if you just write your findings with these terms, but you don't explain the terms, even the professionals that are stuck on one line of research will not understand the interconnecting links, because they're not, if they're scalar physics, they're not into biophotons.
Right.
Yeah. So it needed basically a school book for all these different scientific approaches.
I think
to
you succeeded.
Update people on. Yeah,
you succeeded.
Nice to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah, my feeling was that most of the people read Kara's part of the book, and then they come to mine and they're exhausted and they realize, okay, I have to digest this in small portions, like 5 pages a day, and really learn things by heart, and then they get lazy and drop it after a while, because I didn't see the content appear in any research on chemtrails. Everything is, especially for researchers, everything is in there to take it to the last bit and last dot, to the lab and to the court and to the science. It's all in there. Yeah, I gathered everything, but I don't see this happening. And I don't know, maybe sometimes it's like if nobody does things, it ends up to be my role to do it. But if you try to do everything alone, it doesn't work, because you get a bit vulnerable on that end, and it needs other people to jump in and take a little bit of the risky part from my shoulders. But, I considered doing this as well, going to court with these things. But it doesn't work that way.
No.
It needs a little broader basement so that it doesn't make sense to take out single people.
Right. Do you think that's improving in any way, or is it kind of like still the same?
In Germany, it's like not really improving. There are a couple of people who are willing to do something, but it's not enough to get some talk you into the things. In the United States, I have the feeling it's completely stuck. You can't even elect a president that has more than a quarter IQ. So I don't know how the American people want to solve something of that size. I mean, you've got good people. I don't want to say everybody is, but the general public in the United States won't carry anything to anywhere at the moment.
Right.
You're like the big experiment, how far you can get with using biochemistry to create a fascist state. This is what they test on your continent, and they're sad to say, but they're pretty successful.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that. So, are you planning on doing any more writing?
I did something in German that is not translated yet, that is describing the journey of clearing yourself.
Oh. It's
only, it's of course a little bit of history, like going back to the expulsion from paradise and going through the steps of social engineering that happened to humanity, but then focusing on inner practice to cure the damage and get back to the original state. And that's public domain in German.
Okay.
If there's somebody out there who speaks both German and English and is bored, I wouldn't mind to have somebody translating it to English or other languages.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I work with a company or an online company that has been successful with some translations, but it's a lot of work. It's hard to find competent volunteers for that kind of thing. How long is the piece? How many pages?
About 100 pages.
Okay, all right.
It's quite a. Maybe I have to do it because I know the content and I don't have to be too strict with the accuracy when I choose words. So it's like double speed when I do the translation. But I don't have time for it right now. Maybe in the winter.
Right.
Maybe the long evenings will do it.
Yeah. Yeah, it would be quicker for you.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
do you ever travel to the States?
I've been in Canada, and I had a short stop on an American airport before I started to be active.
Oh, I see.
At the moment, I'm afraid that Homeland Security would sort me out at customs and directly bring a guillotine, especially for me.
Yeah. Okay, I understand.
I'm not tempting them.
Right.
I got quite a few invitations, more invitations from the States at the moment than from Germany for conferences, but a couple of countries are no-go areas at the moment.
How about Canada? No.
Great Britain is no-go, Canada is no-go, Australia is no-go, all the Arab countries are no-go. North Africa is no-go. I can move within Europe, that's okay. Can move to Russia.
Russia's okay?
Russia is okay.
Yeah.
I think they love me. I mean, the people don't know my work, but the agencies, I guess, definitely love me.
Yeah.
Because they would like to see. I mean, Putin offered to stop chemtrailing. I remember, like half a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
He said, if you just freeze your games and plans to conquer Russia or destroy Russia with the NATO, then just let's sign an agreement and let's all stop chemtrailing because we're killing the planet. I don't think he didn't say the last sentence, but he offered a complete removal of the technology from the planet.
So insofar as the
completely
the chemtrails and the technologies for this, is that entirely a human endeavor, or is there an ET component?
There's definitely a ET component, because although it's not easy to distinguish one from the other, because of the ways how ET components come to life can vary. You can have a direct contact and get like scripts and drawings to build something, but you might as well just have a demon within you that is inspiring you to invent something, and you're so identified with a demon that you think it's your genius doing this. I would say most of the AI technology came to us in that way, and I guess maybe with an exception of the windmill and some other things, all technology in that definition is AI technology, because we're not supposed to run on technology. We're spiritual beings. If you want to communicate with somebody, take telepathy. Yeah, if you want to travel somewhere, relocate.
So even the spoken language itself could be
ability.
Even the spoken language itself could be looked at as a technology, an ET introduced technology, you think?
Yeah, of course. We have this in the mythologies. It's the Tower of Babylon.
Okay.
That stopped the ability of humans to understand each other on telepathic level. And it didn't matter where people came from. They could come from South America or Southeast Asia, whatever. They had the common language on the level of meaning, on the telepathic level. And whatever they talked, it didn't matter. The words didn't matter. The words were just an expression of emotional attachment to the content. You can say something in joy or in sadness. So this is what the language was for, but the level of meaning was an open book to everybody. This is how like animal communication functions. We've got loads of animal communicators that are actually trying to live from that profession in I think entire Europe, even in Scandinavia. I met some. And they learned to go back to that level of communicating on meaning, syntax, and then you can talk to a dog and talk to a cat, and you will be surprised how intelligent these beings are, and how heartful and how responsible, and they talk. Yep. So yes, language that fell apart into codes that carry more AI-like meaning. It's the first step from a language to a computer code, reducing words to the meaning of the syntax itself. It started with the Ten Commandments. And there you can clearly see that it is a programming language, because they introduced this funny word, don't. I don't know in the English. How is the original Ten Commandments in English? You shall not kill. Is it that way?
Yes.
It's very clear in Hebrew. In Hebrew, it should have been Al Tirzach. Don't kill. Al Tirzach is the original language. And Al is don't, and Al is kind of one lingual, emotional root with halt. Stop before you kill. There's no negation in it. It's just demanding in action. Before you kill, stop. Hold yourself. Yeah? This is original language, and what you know from the Kabbalah is, if you want to create the opposite of a word, the meaning, on meaning level, create the opposite of a word, you reverse letters. So funnily, if you take this Al Tirzach, which means stop before you kill, and you reverse letters, you come out with a Lo Tirzach. And you can feel this Lo. It's let go. Let go when you feel the wish to kill. This is the emotional value of the sixth commandment. While the mental part was educated, this is kind of the law that is forbidding you to kill. So what they did is actually giving you a complete double bind that on mental level is stopping you from killing, on the emotional level driving you to kill. And then you have got all these single gods in between the tribes who say, don't kill your neighbor from your own tribe, but kill the other tribe completely. And this is how they got their blood and fire sacrifice through war into motion. Yeah? So yes, language on that level is programming language. Humans follow these commands like robots. Yeah? And both on taking the sentence in and acting according to it. But also if you just talk with yourself, like inner affirmation. If you use these words, you mainly affirm the opposite of what you really want. Yeah, like we just did a medical magazine. What Doctors Don't Tell You. You might know it from the United States. We made the first German edition of it. And everything that could go wrong with this first edition kind of went wrong in the process because of the girl doing it. She's Polish and she doesn't speak a single word German, but she's producing a German magazine with close to nobody in the crew actually understanding the language. So it was really hassle. So the things went wrong, and like one day before printing, she called me, clearing the last mistake that happened, and she said, "No more mistakes." From now on, no more mistakes. And you can imagine everything afterwards went wrong as before, because this is what she affirmed. And if you don't revise this innerly, if I would have been clever enough to kind of see that she's doing the lingual mistake, taking the sentence, turning it around in my head, and say, "Stop behaving stupid now," and forgetting things or mixing up things, I wouldn't have mixed up anything afterwards. But you digest the sentence and then flow things, ripping you into chaos. So this is how it works. Best example I ever saw was, I think it's good to go into the detail here, the Late Late Show with some sort of mentalist in the United States. And he did an experiment with 200 people in the audience. He gave paper and pen to everybody, and he told them, "Please draw a symbol of your choice. It can be anything." And to give you an example how diverse things can be, he himself took 5 papers. He drew a Superman T-shirt, S with this triangle around, a cross, a mountain with a snow tip, and a Playboy rabbit. And then he said, "Do not paint these 5 symbols." And then everybody was painting, and they precisely got like 200 pentagrams or Stars of David. Not one exception in the audience. And then he revealed kind of half of the solution to the magic he applied. He said, if you look at my symbols, it's S, it's T, the cross is T, the mountain is an A, and the rabbit, if you turn him around, it's an R, so this gives you a star. So I showed you the star, and you picked the star up as inspiration. This is how this language thing works.
That is a good
We're
example.
not even aware of where it goes in, because we are identified with a receiving structure that is this voice in your head. It's actually nothing else than the end of the eye nerve processing written symbols. If you're not reading, your inner voice is always in the chest. It doesn't even appear in the head. It has nothing to do in the head, unless you start reading. This is how they created the thought processing entity that is digesting language, and now we identify it, and it's our ego. This is how it's made. So it's pretty messed up inside, and it's hopeless because of this. And it's not hopeless, but it's difficult because of the full identification most people are in.
Right.
And of course, if you're identified with something, this something doesn't want to be dissolved.
Or discovered.
Or discovered. So it gives you a hard time. Yeah. And then, you make the first 2 steps, and you're proud of dissolving your ego, and then you can see who's proud, actually. Your higher self never would be proud. You would be relieved. Yeah. So the ego is kind of removing the first bit of himself and building up more substance on the other end. Yeah, it's tricky. It's tricky, but it's worth it, because
You get your life back.
the truth you get, not my life. From the perspective of the ego, I do end my life. But when the ego is possessing the incarnation, then the true self is sitting in the background and suffering tremendous pains, because it has to basically be there while all the shit happens. Be there while the ego hurts himself and others. And there's no possibility to jump in and say stop, because if you exclude all these triggers like conscience, then there's no way to meddle into the day consciousness affairs from the higher self. So you can be a complete madman and cause a lot of harm, and your true self, that is a loving entity, sits in the background and screams all the time. So this is what we can end by reinviting this loving entity in the background back in and remove the one that is causing all this havoc.
Harald, does your son live with you?
My son?
Yes. Does he live with you?
I've got 3.
Oh.
No.
Oh, okay.
No. We see each other regularly, but the family broke apart actually in the year when I started to research the chemtrailing issue.
Okay. But you get to see him.
Was not. Yeah, we see each other.
That's good.
It's okay.
Yeah, good. That's good.
The things I dealt with are not for children.
Right. Are they older now?
Yeah, they're all grown up.
So what do they think about your
by now
work?
They don't know it.
Oh.
They have a rough picture of what I'm doing. They have okay picture of the character and abilities I'm running on, but they're not interested in the content because for them it would be depressing.
Okay.
There's kind of respect. This is my thing, so I have to do it. So that part is okay. At least for me, it's okay that way. And they really get excited and happy if I do something nice. Like this spring, I had an invitation to Fuerteventura, one of the Spanish islands west of Africa, because they had problems with 2 years no rain, not a single drop, and collapsing life force fields in agriculture. And I was invited by a little farm growing medicinal herbs to help out. And we worked on a new design for a mixture between cloud busting, the Celtic power of life force, these basalt powers found in Ireland, and some electroculture technologies. So we merged all the different accesses to life force on field level. And at the end of the day, it was raining, and at the end of the day, everything was shining green again. So it was a beautiful task to solve. And my kids went like, "This was something nice to do. Can't you do just only these things? Stick to that. Don't bother with these ass-creeping embryos." This is how they call the Morgellon fruiting buddies, ass-creeping embryos.
So that was last spring?
That was in May,
of 2017?
And 18.
Oh, recent.
Year.
Okay. Oh, recent. All right.
Yeah, just recent. It was an amazing experience because I went down there just on the request of a let's call it a friend, and I didn't know what would have been coming up as for me to do. He just said, "We've got quite a few people down here working for this farm project. and before we do endless Skype conversations trying to get your knowledge to all of them, why don't you just come down and coach us all for a while? When I arrived, it was completely clear there's actually only one topic to solve, because it doesn't help to have good people if nature is completely dying. You can't do anything. If something turns into complete desert state, that's it. Even inside greenhouses, nothing grows anymore.
Right.
And that was kind of 5 to 12 on that thing. And then, of course, the first thing you do in this, or I did in this situation, was going into the desert to talk to Gaia, if she would, I can offer, and if she would accept my help to revive these islands. Never without invitation and being asked by the one who suffers. First law of healing things, or people, or whatever. And she, for the first 3 times, she appeared completely angry at that point. And she said, yeah, you can do something, but not for these people here. And she meant the people on the island who live from tourism and completely dropped gardening and taking care of her, and the tourists who hate rain. Yeah. So yeah, it was something to do to save the nature, but not for the people of the islands. And then I said, okay, let's start. Let's get things combined, like all the inspiration that came on the way down. It was a long journey with beautiful input by lots of people. Like visited Dan Winter on the way for field physics, and quite inspiring journey. And so I was kind of overwhelming with ideas, and she said, you are allowed to learn here. So I had to drop all my inspirations and all my ego popping in with simple solutions, and we just let ourselves being guided by tensor testing, muscle testing, every single detail, giving it to her to decide, do you want to have this part in the device or don't you need it? So it developed completely under the guidance of Gaia. And it's amazing what came out of this. Finally I learned the full field physics of life force, because she showed me, and she was absolutely right. It's amazing how she always sounds so tough and rough and angry and upset with humans. But this is like when a mother sees somebody who is not in order, she can't pretend parts are okay. You know, it's like, okay, you're not in a good shape, but it's okay. A real mother would never do that. A real mother is always like pointing to the last little tiny bit of dirt in your spirit to get this out, because she loves you and she wants to see you clear. So it's a bit tough working with her, but it's worth it. It was like a bit, at times fun doing it, at times a bit tiring. It's involved like laying you know, the pattern of the seeds of the sunflower?
Yes.
Like you have like golden ratio spirals in both directions, and when we had to build basalt walls out of basalt stones in that pattern. That was part of the device we constructed. And it was important that every single stone was lying in the wall according to its magnetic orientation.
Oh.
And when you start measuring every single stone with a compass, you get mad because it interferes with the normal magnetic field. You can't do that. It's impossible. So we had to learn somehow to sense the magnetism of the stone. Some people worked with a tensor, like testing all the time until orientation was correct. And two of us in the crew learned to feel the magnetic flow in the arm. So if you predefine the flow in the arm, and then you turn the stone around in your hand, you feel the moment where it opens up and flows through in a straight line. And that is how you lay it. So you already go into the line, pick up the flow, test the stone with. It's like muscle testing, but on hundreds of muscles in the hand to turn it into the right. And that was my gift. I mean, it's kind of beautiful how these things develop. It was my gift on that journey, because sitting in the desert under the sun and letting your fingers and your gut feeling drive you for weeks, this is what finally balanced my mental and my emotional field. Just on the level of biophysics. Being concentrated all day on what does my gut feeling say? Am I in a good condition to muscle test or to intuitively move? And the moment you go up into your mind, it's ruined. It doesn't work anymore. Then you think, where should I put this stone? And you get no answer as usual. Yeah? But being in the state of flow and connected to the gut feeling, it was 3 weeks was long enough to rebalance my system to the point where the heart could open. Yeah? And these are these beautiful, tiny, little gifts of life that then come, because I had no idea that this is how you do it. Yeah? Like most of the people, I thought being emotional has something to do with the heart. Complete bullshit. It doesn't. You've got your mental body, you've got your emotional body, and the heart is supposed to be the controlling center in the middle. And unless those two are balanced, you can't open it or reactivate the chakra. It doesn't work. Then some people are basically emotional driven, and because they are emotional, they pretend or think or believe that they are heart-based people, just because of the lower half is dominant. Yeah, they should activate their mind and rebalance that from that end of the system. And then you come to the point where it's still a gift that then comes, that the chakra opens. And then, only then it's possible to understand what all the rest was about all the time. Because as long as you're in these limited conditions of running on fractions of your bioenergetic system, being identified with those fractions, there's no way to really feel the full picture of what is possible. So these development steps are always going into shady areas, unknown areas. Nobody knows what step is the right one next. So it's a lot, at least for me, it's a lot of letting your life flow and having all these coincidences and intuitive decisions to bring you into the right learning positions to get things straightened.
Are you going to go back
to Fuerteventura? I plan to go in autumn, but autumn is already there and I didn't book anything. I don't fly, so getting to these islands is really a hassle. Crossing entire Europe by train, and then you've got 24 hours on a ship. And it normally you would say flying costs like 3 times as much as going by train, but today, like, train costs 4 times as much as flying, because these bastards are paying the airlines to use this fuel that contains all these chemicals. So the airlines don't pay for the fuel anymore. They just pay for the little airport services and for the maintenance of the aircraft. So you can fly from whatever, Berlin to Zurich for 25 euros, spending 200 euros on fuel on the way.
Wow.
Yeah, but nobody calculates. Flights got cheap because so many people fly today. This is what everybody thinks.
And
I don't want to.
Harald, what's the name of the islands?
The one I was on was Fuerteventura. It's a group of, I think, 5 islands, 5 or 6, with La Palma, Fuerteventura. Can't think of the other ones right now.
Did you take pictures while you were there?
Yeah.
You did?
Can you display one? I can show you a picture of the.
Yeah, or you could send it to me later via email, and I'll put it in the video.
Yeah. Okay. So
Yeah.
I pretend I send it now. You can insert it. Yeah.
Just whatever you want to send me, images or whatever, we can do that later, and I can put it in the finished edited video, and then I'll send it over to you. And I really appreciate this, you spending all this time with me and talking about these things that I've not heard you talk about before. Maybe you have talked about them before, I just haven't seen them.
No, not yet. You asked me for the latest developments.
Yeah.
So I told you my barn is thrashing. The roof is hanging on 3 points instead of 4. And I've been to 4. This is what happened recently.
Yeah, you have to get that fixed before it starts snowing, right?
Yeah. I don't want to have some tons of snow on top of that. But everything is prepared to get it fixed. It's okay. We will manage.
Very good. Okay, well, we're up on about an hour, which is a good length of time. I know we could probably talk a lot longer, but it's getting late over there, and I just want to thank you so much for your time today. I really do appreciate it. And if there's anything else that you'd like to mention before we go, please do.
I don't know. People, get your shit sorted. I don't know. It's
That's a good message.
I mean, if you look at the state of things at the moment, everything is ridiculous. And everybody's minds are dancing to this ridiculous theater played by the media. Who cares about corruption in Washington? Because everybody's corrupt, and you have like tons of corrupt people trying to get rid of each other by claiming the other one is corrupt. Everybody's into child trafficking, into child abuse, into murder, into treason, whatever. There's a bunch of completely demonized, empty shells that do the worst they can do because everybody else decided that hierarchy is a good idea. Why don't people just get the beauty of this simple insight that these demonized empty shells that are as evil as a human can get are the direct cause of other people rejecting self-responsibility and supporting hierarchies. Yeah, it's so simple, it's so easy, and everybody's staring up there. Could we get a good president next time, please? You don't even have a good one to vote. Yeah, because everybody who is put into the position to get voted is already an empty shell that is completely demonized. Yeah, you don't have a chance to get up there unless you're an empty shell that is demonized. And, of course, you have to have had some child molested or people murdered that somebody can put the trigger at you and tell you what you're supposed to do. If not, we will expose things in public. This is how politics works. So can't you just drop that bullshit? Because it doesn't work that way. Yeah, it doesn't get better if you fumble around by pushing little decisions, getting maybe a better president next time or stopping the worst decisions. It doesn't work that way. The entire concept hierarchy is demonic and it's designed to bring evil people to the trigger to ignite blood sacrifice and fire sacrifice for the demons. This is how it works. So please stop doing that.
Right.
Then on personal level, blood and fire sacrifice arrived on personal level in the front and backyards of people's homes. You call that barbecue. It directly comes from blood and fire sacrifice in early ages when these demonic cults introduced humanity into eating meat. Look what eating meat does to animals. A fox eats meat and he has no mercy with a rabbit, which is okay because he's supposed to eat rabbits. We eat meat and we have no mercy with nobody because we lose our compassion when we eat meat. We suck in, and not only eating meat. I mean, this is just a quarter of the evil we soak in. We eat meat of animals that get tortured for a lifetime, and that then get killed in the most cruel ways you can imagine. So we eat meat that is loaded to the limit with torture energy and hormones of terror. And then we have all this inside our system. And of course, if you're soaked with this, looking at politics is completely normal. Because there's no difference in horror between the state of your body and the state of the world.
The same energy.
If you get same energy, exactly the same energy. Get your bodies clean of this bullshit, and you will look out of the window and start to scream because you see things you've never seen before. And when I started getting cleaned, you go to the supermarket, you forget actually where the corner is where the meat gets sold, so you just walk by that corner and turn the back to the meat, and suddenly the body collapses. Because, you turn with your back chakras into the direction and you get a full load of pain from these animals into your chakra system and you collapse to the ground. I know people who, it was actually a beautiful story, a guy that was driving his motorcycle on a highway and he crossed by one of these vans transporting pigs to the slaughterhouse. And he collapsed on the motorcycle, because he got the full load of these emotions into his system. And this thing completely changed his life. Now he's just traveling from village to village, discussing with the mayor to get parts of the public land, and he's growing paradise gardens in every village he comes across because of this incident. It needs some measures to wake up. And once you start waking up, this goes and go. It goes quicker and quicker, because you get used to waking up. But it's also something you can get used to, that you see yourself changing and you see things changing in front of your eyes, not because of things changing, just because your view changes.
Right.
And yourself gets more clear and clear and clear to see the real things in this theater.
So 100 pages in English.
100 pages in English would be good. Yeah. This is, I don't know. This is what I wish to see out there, and I don't think that we have much time left to wake up. This is a bit difficult, but the demiurge is out of the game. Satan is not there anymore, which automatically means, in the context of long-term history, that actually the quarantine on planet Earth should be lifted. And I don't think that the friendly beings out there will stand back while these crazy humans destroy the planet. We're not the only ones here. We are not the first species to developed cultural life and civilizations on this planet. We're not supposed to be the last ones. They won't let us destroy this planet. I don't see that. I don't feel this. It's like my feeling is more like we have like a couple of months, maybe half a year, maybe 1 year, to learn our lessons by ourselves. The worst is over. Actually, we could wake up now to ourselves, and but there's not unlimited time to do so. I don't see that. I don't feel there's some sort of pressure from outside that is.
There's a sense of
telling
urgency.
me if
A sense of urgency.
yes, definitely. I never had this before, like this need to hurry up with my own issues. I want to have it done soon. Yeah.
Okay.
And I don't feel like being one of a few to do it. Because I don't know, humans are. If you look at the original setup, we're so beautiful beings, so gifted with everything. And it's just about demanding this back, taking it back, because it works to demand it back. It's all about affirmation. If you lost a part of yourself, just affirm it back. You don't feel anger, center yourself in your heart and say, I feel my anger. And there it is. It's easy. If you know the technique, it's easy to conquer everything back. It's just daily practice, nothing else. And and it's all there. We didn't lose anything. It just dropped into the hidden, and we have to reclaim it and retake it and reintegrate it into our day consciousness, to the point where there is no day consciousness, but only ourselves. And that's it. It's actually easy. It's easy.
All right. Well, I'm glad we talked. I'm glad you finished with that. I'm glad because that's what was on your mind, that message, and so I thank you for that. I thank you for being honest about that, and maybe we could do a follow-up sometime. But I just want to thank everybody for joining us, and especially you, Harald, for joining me, and we'll be back again. Bye-bye.
Bye.